Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion advised. Well, shit. So, I had originally planned for my next episode to be something a little bit different than what this is going to be. I have been enjoying sort of my leveling vacation and working my way through the Legion zones, and I was probably going to be doing my next episode, I don't know, in a week or two. I'm in the middle of setting up for a move, so my schedule's a little chaotic at the moment. But that was what I had planned. And then today, I find out some news, and we all found out some news that, quite frankly, I don't think any of us expected. Certainly we're not prepared for. I have no shame in admitting emotionally I am surprised at how this is hitting me as well, in that Chris Metzen, the Senior Vice President of Story and Franchise Development at Blizzard, has effectively retired. And it looks like he is retired as of today. It is Monday, September 12th. I'm recording this almost at 9 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want sort of an insight into a psychological experiment of somebody going through all of the stages of grief in pretty real time, this is a good documentation of that, because we're only going on a couple hours here of getting this news, and I have found myself, as I think many have in the last few hours, in some sort of shock, not really sure what to think or what to say, if there really is a need for any of that. And I find myself, again, like I think a lot of other people, in sort of a reflective mood, as honestly, I've been riding the high of Legion for the last couple of weeks, so I'll talk about that a little later. I think it's been a fantastic expansion. Much like I enjoyed the release of Warlords of Draenor, this has been even better. Legion has been kicking ass from all directions. Overwatch has become an absolute beast. All of the franchises are in a pretty healthy state for the most part, so it's supremely surprising to find out that the man himself, the centerpiece on which I have felt that much of the best creative storytelling has come from, is now leaving us. And I want to preface a lot of what I'm saying by saying this, is my grandfather is fond of saying that the only constant in life is change, and to expect otherwise is really a fool's errand. It's inevitable that people will leave jobs. It's inevitable that people will move on to other things. In this case, here's a situation with a man who many of us hold in very high esteem, very high regard, who we have to thank for much of the entertainment and the good times and friendships that we carry through to today. We have him to thank for a lot, and he has made the choice, as somebody who has built a life and has done well for himself and is choosing to spend time with his family. And I don't think that there is a more noble aspiration for anyone than to make a successful life for themselves and to spend as much time as they can with their family. I think that is a commendable, admirable action by somebody who could have stayed in this game, could have made who knows how much more money, probably could have dealt with a whole bunch more stress, because let's face it, the gaming industry is not exactly the most serene place to make a living. And he's given all of this up to focus his time and attention on his family. And Chris, I doubt you'll ever hear this. I'm just another faceless voice in the dark. But if by some chance you ever come across this recording, across this little podcast of mine, thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done for us. Thank you for being an example to so many of us of how to be, how to treat the things that are important to us and the people that are important to us in our lives. And I wish you all the best of luck in your retirement at the tender age of 42. And I hope that you and your wife and your family and everyone else can enjoy these times with you while the rest of us are left to sort of pick up the pieces. Now, I only met Chris Metzen a couple of times very briefly, and I'm not even sure met is really the right word, in that the only BlizzCon I ever went to a couple of years ago, I sort of bumped into him a couple of times and said, "Hey, thanks. Hey, you're the man. Hey," I mean, Christ, I had lost my voice at that point. I think I was more than drunk at least one or two of those times. I think probably the most awkward was we almost peed next to each other in a urinal, and his bodyguard handler guy pulled him out of the line right before we were about to go into the bathroom. And this was probably 10 minutes before the Metallica closing act hit. So as much as I would have liked to have said, you know what, I got this awesome, awkward picture of us together in a urinal, the most I ever got was a brief conversation with him about the set list, and I never did get that picture. Some part of me will probably always regret that, even though it's kind of a stupid thing. But a piece of me will kind of regret that. So, maybe when I come to BlizzCon this year, you might see me taking a few more pictures, or being a little bit more engaging than I probably had planned. And if anything, it's because I understand the value of living in these moments that we're presented with, and understanding that there is no guarantee for tomorrow. There is no guarantee for another chance. And so when you get to meet somebody that you look up to, or somebody that is meaningful to you in some way, say something, do something. It's funny. This isn't even a family member. For God's sakes, he's not even dead. I mean, the guy's just retiring. It's not like he passed away. I just did this whole thing on Varian, which thankfully you people seem to have loved, and I'm glad that you did. And he wasn't even real. He's just, he's voiced by Chris Metzen, so all of this timing is kind of odd. But, it again, bring in perspective to this, and that for those of us that may feel the sense of grief about all of this, and I certainly do feel these waves of something, keep it in perspective. Here's a guy who gave a lot to us, and somebody who we can be thankful for. We crossed paths in one way or another, and he gave us something that we'll always cherish. And he's choosing to move on and do something different, and which is all commendable. But there are people in our lives that we do know, that we do love, and that deserve much more of our attention than we probably do get. So just as a friendly word of advice out there, is if you're grieving, or if you're feeling any sort of the grief process over the loss or the retirement of Chris Metzen, reach out to somebody that you love, somebody that you know, somebody that maybe you haven't spent too much time with, and give them that same kind of attention, because I know I could be better about that myself, and I'm sure a couple of us could be too. So at the end of the day, the creative reigns of Warcraft, of Diablo, Heroes of the Storm, of Overwatch, of all the franchises that we've come to know and love, those are going to be turned over to those that are left. And the bar has been raised very high for all of them. I will be honest with you, I don't have much of a sense of who would be the creative director now, or who would be handed those reins. Rob Pardo, I think at one time, was sort of a creative liaison in that respect. And certainly Chris Metzen has been there for the last 23 years. And now it'll be interesting to see how those duties are either divvied up or turned into something else. Who knows what Blizzard will do? I'm sure that there's some sort of succession planning going on. But at these crossroads, I would ask everyone to be open, to be supportive of whoever's coming next, to offer them the same love and support that we've given Chris over the years, and even the shit that we've given him. I mean, let's be frank. We haven't always been the super nicest bunch, but when we look forward to the road ahead, Let's go through it together. Let's offer the same kind of support that we've given him to the next group of leadership or the next leaders that come through. Because I do think that Chris speaks the truth when in his statement he talks about how the people whose hands he's leaving these franchises in, they're very passionate about what they're doing. They're passionate about these games, about these activities that we're so vested and interested in. And it's reassuring to me that he feels that way. And I don't think that he would leave us in a state of disarray if it weren't. Because I think for me, one of the reasons that it hits me so hard that he's leaving, and this is the best example that I can give, is when you're invested in something, whatever it is, especially when it's something that you're sort of a third party to, you want to know that the creators or the controllers or the owners or whoever they are have a vested interest, not just in the success of whatever the endeavor is, but they have some sort of vested interest in you. And the best example that I can give is being a Northern California guy. I'm a 49er fan, and I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. And the difference between the way that these two franchises are run is quite stark. With the San Francisco Giants, no matter how good or bad or whatever the team is, I know that ownership, yeah, they care about revenue and they care about the team and all that kind of stuff. But they have a genuine interest and they care about the fans. They care about our experience at the park, the relationships that we have with the team, the activities that we have an opportunity to be involved in, all of that. Whereas the ownership of the 49ers, for all I know and for all I see and for all I have seen, they care about the money. The fans, what we're up to, kind of secondary. As long as we show up to give them our money, that's really it. I could be wrong. Feel free to prove me wrong otherwise. But that's the sort of emotional attachment I have for one team over another, where I know and I believe that my interests are being cared for by one. And if something were to happen to that leadership group, I would probably be crushed to some degree, because that care would be at risk, and who knows what would come after that. And there's just a certain sense of comfort that you get knowing that the people in charge of whatever this is that is meaningful to you is also meaningful to them. And I think that's the way we felt about Chris Metzen. As the position that he was at Blizzard with all of the work that he did there, you knew that he cared. You knew that he was passionate about the games. You knew that he was passionate about his connection with us as the fans and the players, and that was never in question. So no matter what was going on, you just felt a sense of stability that he was there. And now that he's gone, it's the fear of the unknown. But we'll go through it together. We'll see what happens. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think Blizzard is riding a wave of a second renaissance here. And I think as we're going through Legion, we're going to see that we're in good hands. So I wish Chris all the best and the Metzen family all the luck in the world. And I hope that you enjoy these golden years. So since I'm on here already, and I don't know, I guess I'm kind of ahead of schedule a little bit, why don't I talk about Legion? Yeah, so Legion's here. It's been kick-ass. Oh my God. It's been a fantastic ride so far. Me and my boy Rommel, we've been riding roughshod over a bunch of zones so far. Got to hang out with some Vrykul, which as a warrior, pretty much hanging out with Vrykul all the time now. It's Vrykul 24/7. It was very cool to see some of the storylines we had going on there, digging in deep to the history of the Vrykul and hanging out in Stormheim and seeing all the very interesting things going on there. Seeing the backlash of the Gen storyline, I guess it's Gen and Sylvanas going at it. There's an amazing cinematic at the end of that zone, which once again proves that Taron Gregory and his crew know what they're doing. So at least those are some good hands that the future of this franchise has been placed. So if you haven't seen that one yet, if you haven't made your way through that zone, highly encourage you. Don't skip any of this stuff. It's fantastic. After Stormheim, went over to Azuna, Got to play Harry Potter for a little bit and save some blue dragons. That was interesting. Met the first crackhead I've ever met in Warcraft. It was poor Nightfallen. They're really, they're really in a bad place. Magic addiction is no joke. So got to hang out with them, do a couple of rounds there, see some of the ancient night elf civilization, more of it that was destroyed back in the days of the Sundering. So 10,000-year-old architecture getting sunken into the sea. Beautiful zones, all of it, everything I've seen so far. Again, raising the bar, not just in terms of the storytelling and the different kind of quests that we have, but also in the beautiful landscape. If you go to High Mountain, which is where I went next, the night sky there, pretty glorious. Last year, I got the opportunity to go to South Africa, and as part of the trip, I was almost quite literally in the middle of nowhere. There were no lights on anywhere. I was nowhere near a city. I was basically at a site that was in the middle of nowhere. And I had never seen a star field in my life like I'd seen out there. I had never seen the Milky Way in that way before. I had never seen anything that resembled that. And I will say that the night sky in High Mountain, pretty close. Pretty close. Interesting to meet the group out there and uniting all of the tribes, getting up and down the city there. Died to the elevator boss a few times. Not the best. I did get a little old. But again, a beautiful zone. I see why the hunters want to hang out there. The lodge, not bad. Tried to see it. They kicked me out. But, I don't know. As a warrior, that's kind of par for the course. So made it through High Mountain. Got the hammer of Khaz'goroth. Went through Neltharion's lair. It's very interesting to sort of relive Deathwing. And it touches on one of the things that I think Legion has been most successful with, is that unlike other expansions, I feel like Legion, for the first time, really embraces the history of Warcraft as a whole. I've seen a couple of people make these comments, and I don't know exactly why. I don't think this is the last Warcraft expansion. I don't know why there's some belief that somehow this is the end of the game. They've already said that they're working on at least the next couple. So if you believe that, God be with you. But that hasn't quite happened, as far as I can tell. I think the game is still going. So the embrace of the universe that exists there, with the artifacts, with other references, it's the one thing I think that was really missing. Not the one thing, but I think it was one of the things that's really been missing most recently in the expansions we've played through, is that it's almost as if everything else didn't exist. It's as if the Lich King didn't exist. It's as though the Burning Legion or Illidan didn't exist. It's its own thing. It lives and breathes on its own, but it has no sense of history. Where now we're just thick with it, and I love it. And I'm really glad that they've done this. We're probably going to jump off to another planet after this, would be my guess, based on the books that I've read and just kind of the general feel of things. And I'm okay with that. I think that's great. But for this expansion to really revel in where we've been and what we've been, it's glorious. And again, it brings Legion to a whole nother level, which I really appreciate. So at this point, I have leveled to 110. I still have Al Shara to do, and from what I understand, there's some major shit going on down there. Can't wait to see that. World quests, all that kind of stuff. That'll be coming to you from me in the future, but that right now is where I'm at. I've enjoyed myself immensely. I think that taking your time with this expansion and the leveling is something that is not just worth your money, but it's really worth it in the sense of entertainment value. I've taken my time getting as many treasures and rares and kind of just peeking in the corners and seeing what other quests there might be. And, I was almost done with High Mountain, and I was just kind of fill out the exploration achievement. And I found this whole other side area with kobolds and, like, the Candle King and all this kind of stuff that goes back to, like, the very first quest I ever did as just a level 1 nobody instead of a level 110 nobody back at the Northshire Abbey. It's hilarious. And I wouldn't have found that if I hadn't done just a little bit of poking around. So if you haven't had a chance to do that yet, really, I recommend it. Don't worry about the raids. Don't worry about the world quests. All that stuff is going to be there, man. There's no achievements. There's no prizes for being first anymore. So I highly encourage, if you can, take your time, smell the roses, take a couple screenshots. I know I've taken a ton. And just enjoy the ride, because you never know when the next one will be coming around. You never know what the content releases are going to be like. We're supposed to be more regular, but who really knows? So, all in all, Legion has been an absolute pleasure to play through. I stand by what I've said. I think that this is going to be a resurgence for WoW. They recently reported the first set of sales figures. And lo and behold, what do we see? They have once again reached an all-time high for sales in the first day. With 3.3 million copies sold, they've tied their highest record since, which, you kind of have to read the tea leaves a little bit since they don't post subscriber numbers anymore. But that puts us right around 9-10 million subscribers, potentially. That was the numbers that they had back in the Cataclysm days. That was about the time when they sold this before. I think they also did that with Warlords of Draenor. That's fabulous. That's fantastic to hear. It doesn't surprise me at all, given what we've seen and what we've heard. I think that this is going to be something that's going to bring a lot of people back to the game. And with their very bold proclamations that they will be releasing content on a more regular schedule, I think this will keep people invested for the long term. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I think that's a positive sign for those of us that continue to care about this beloved and cherished game of ours. So that's my check-in for now. That's pretty much it for this episode. I just wanted to come on and break my silence. I know it's been a little longer. I know this show's a little rough. I'm just kind of dumping this all out of my brain, and so hopefully this one's not too shitty. But couldn't let it go without talking about Chris Metzen's departure. And just give you guys a little check-in on what I've been doing with Legion. And I look forward to catching up with you all again soon. And before I go, I just want to replay a little reminder that although nobody picked Chris Metzen, I do have a Deadpool game that is currently running, and we have yet to have a winner. So listen up. And I will see you next time around. Strength and honor to you all, my friends, and good luck. Let's play a little game. And I call it the Unshackled Fury Blizzard Deadpool. And here's what we got. I have 25 names of Blizzard employees, mostly Warcraft related, who currently work at the company. I'm going to read them to you in just a second. And here is the idea. Now, I'm not actually waiting for any of these people to die. I'm simply waiting for these people to leave Blizzard. And here's what you have to do. You will pick a name, should you want to play, and you will send me that name through one of the many ways that you have to get in contact with me. And whether it be through Twitter, or through skywriting, or through email, or through, Telegram, singing Telegram, however you can get it to me, you pick a name, you send it to me with the date that you think that person will announce that they have left Blizzard. Only one pick will be allowed per person. If your pick dies, that will technically count, and I'll give you credit for that one. There is no changing your pick, so once you picked one of these names, you're stuck with it. No names can be added to the master list, so do not beg for it if somebody not on this list happens to leave, or you somehow have knowledge that they will be leaving. The prize, which I will soon announce as well, will be bestowed within 7 days of verification of a win. And what I mean by this death pool is that they quit Blizzard, not that they changed titles or franchises that they are working on. So, we know what the game is. I'll read you the names in a minute. And what are you playing for? Well, you are playing for 6 months of game time and your choice of a pet or a mount from the in-game Warcraft store. That's right. You pick the name, you pick the time, you're the winner. I will send all of this to you personally. There's no Blizzard handouts here. I'm This is coming from me. So you pick a name. You're right. 6 months of game time. A pet or a mount of your choice from the in-game store. So here we go. Here is your list of the 25 names in the Unshackled Fury Blizzard Deadpool. Number 1, in no particular order, I might add. Community Manager Josh Allen, also known as Lore. Number 2, Community Manager Randy Jordan, also known as Kyvax. Number 3, Creative Director Alex Afraziabi. Number 4, Vice President and WoW Game Director Tom Chilton, also known at one time as Calgan. Number 5, Community Manager Danielle Vanderlip, also known as Nathera. Number 6, WoW Art Director Chris Robinson. Number 7, WoW Lead Quest Designer Craig Amai. Number 8, WoW Lead Game Designer Ian Hazakostas, also known as Watcher. Number 9, Lead Narrative Designer Dave Cossack. Number 10, Lead Tools Programmer, and somebody you might remember from Azeroth Choppers, Monty Kroll. Number 11, WoW Lead Game Designer Corey Stockton, also known as Mumper, also known as the guy who pretty much only tweets about beer now. Ugh. Number 12, Senior Game Designer Jeremy Fiesel, also known as Muffinus. Number 13, Senior Game Designer Brian Holinka. 14, Senior Game Designer Jonathan LeCraft, also going as Crafticus. 15, Senior Game Designer Helen Chang, also known as Kismet. 16, Technical Game Designer Chad Nervig, who you might know better as Celestalon. 17, Game Designer Russell Peterson, also known as Night Moogle. 18, WoW QA Kendall Hudson, also known as Arvanis. 19, also in QA, Kyle Hartline, known as Zorbix. And we get some big ones here. 20, CEO and co-founder Mike Morheim. 21, CDO and co-founder Frank Pierce. 22, Art and Cinematic Development of Warcraft and Vice President Nick Carpenter. 23, In-Game Cinematic Project Director Taryn Gregory. 24, Senior Esports Manager Kim Fan. And last but not least, and certainly who I hope does not win this, Senior Vice President Story and Franchise Development, Mr. Chris Metzen. So there you go. There's your 25 names. Maybe this forces me to get a website because I'll have to put this list somewhere. But you can pause and write this down or just remember whoever the name is on here you want and send it to me. You can send it to me at Berserker Rage on Twitter. You can email me at unshackledfuryshow@gmail.com. And this game will last as long as it has to. So welcome to the Unshackled Fury Blizzard Deadpool. I am your host, Berserker, and I wish good luck to you all.